This is the first LODESTAR webinar of a series of webinars that we, as part of our LODESTAR research project, hope to organize over the past or over the upcoming years. Before we kick off, a few housekeeping rules. Just please mute yourself if you haven't done already. And also, just to notify everyone, this session is being recorded. And this is as part of the LODESTAR YouTube channel, through which we hope to make these discussions more accessible to wider publics. And if you have any questions about this, please feel free to contact me. So as I said, this is the first of a series of webinars that we hope to organize, in which we invite various people involved in disaster preparedness, but more specifically early warning systems. Those can range from practitioners to scientists to people in civic organizations, and I will shortly introduce our first speaker for today. If you are more interested in these events, also again, feel free to contact me. Trying to go to the next slide. Yes, so the session today will be a webinar, as I'm sure you are aware. I will briefly introduce the speaker and also the LODESTAR research project through which this webinar is taking place. After that, we will have our presentation by Koen, who is our external speaker today, which will last roughly 20 to 25 minutes. And after that, there will hopefully be a good amount of time for a Q&A from the attendees, which we will do as usual through a raised hand, and then I will kind of moderate it. So first, a little bit about the LODESTAR project. Also good to mention is that my name is Maya Brons, and I'm a postdoc researcher at Wageningen University as part of this research project. And the LODESTAR stands for Low Cost Disaster and Emergency Services for Communities at Risk. And within this project, we are trying to develop and improve early warning systems through living labs and serious games in the Netherlands and in India. So we're trying to understand which early warning systems are currently in place, and trying to work with local municipalities and communities in the Netherlands and India to kind of understand if these early warning systems work, and if not, where is there scope for improvement, both from a technological point of view, but also in a social sense, for instance, through improved communication channels. And so, as a final thing, it is a deeply transnational project. The research is being conducted by a cohort of different institutions in the Netherlands and India, and it is also interdisciplinary. So we have data analysts and social scientists like myself working on this. So that is kind of the context through which we are organizing this seminar. And then to briefly introduce our external speaker today, we have Koen Lassauw from Veiligheidsregio Gelderland-Zuid. This is one of 25 safety regions who in the Netherlands are responsible for all things related to security, from natural disasters to war risks, and also are deeply involved with the disaster responders, from police to the fire brigade. He is advisor crisis management within this safety region, and amongst other things is a coordinator of a safety hub and focuses on preparedness and societal preparedness within the context of compounding crises. Without further ado, I would like to give Koen the floor. So I will stop sharing my own screen, and then feel free to start your own presentation.
Thank you very much. I will do so. Good day, everybody. I hope my screen is visible, the presentation at this moment.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. So I will keep it short because there's a lot to say about water management in specific. Today we will talk mostly about the dashboard we are creating currently, which is part of crisis preparedness on the topic of water, and especially water quantity. And I hope this will be of use. I will keep it short. There's a lot to say about the whole structure of the government in the Netherlands, and I can talk for hours and hours, but I don't think this is very interesting. I will give you a couple of points, mostly about the context in which we work, the tools we have available at this moment, the demand of people who actually have to respond to early warning systems and other products, and then the process of creating an integral, useful dashboard where everything comes together. Yeah, I suppose we keep, if you have some questions, just keep them for the end of the presentation. I will try to keep it as short as possible. So let's talk a little bit about the context. I don't know how aware everybody is about the situation of the Netherlands in specific, but basically we are a water country. We have a huge coastline, and we have two major rivers, the Meuse and the Rhine, who enter the Netherlands. And about 70% of the inhabitants of the Netherlands live in a flood zone, flood risk area, basically. On this little map, you can see the light blue, which is actually just above sea level, and all the dark blue is the risk area that's actually below sea level. The Netherlands is, well, quite a rich country in the sense, and very densely populated, which means the infrastructure is of very high levels, which basically gives us an enormous amount of safety, physical protection. And there is a lot of awareness in the culture as well of the risks of flood and the damage it can do. But the safety is almost been taken for granted for the last couple of, well, basically since 1960. Which creates a false sense, or maybe a good sense, of security among citizens, which results in a low level of individual preparedness of civilians. They trust the government a lot, which is good, but the government, which I work for, as Maya thought, has a lot of challenges as well, mostly in climate change, adaptation, or structures are created to defend the water in certain parameters, which are very safe parameters. But with the climate change, we have a lot of extra risks also in the construction of our defenses. So we organize to meet these risks. And actually in the Netherlands, we have a different kind of tax. We have our normal tax system, and then we have a different kind of tax that goes to the water management boards to protect ourselves from the water, which is why we have such good infrastructure as well. And we have a very complex system. We have a lot of stakeholders who are responsible for the water safety in the Netherlands. We have the water authorities, or the water management boards, who are responsible for building dikes, flood protections, most of them, and monitor the water levels, also keep nature included in the system, handle big floods or intense rain. Then we have the safety region, which I'm a part of, who is responsible for the physical safety of all our inhabitants. And we do the preparedness for the social side of things, and the emergency services and the emergency response. We have a very complex system, which I will not go into detail. And then above that, we have the national government, which has several ministries who are responsible, again, for different types of structures, safety, and decision making. Because we have so much knowledge and so much different protocols, there is also one big center in the Netherlands, which is centrally placed, and we call it the Water Management Center of the Netherlands, where all these parties basically come together and share their knowledge, and that's where they actually make national crisis plans and also do a lot of very complex data processing and predictions. So we have this luxury where we have all these very highly specialized, well-paid authorities that do very complex, well, basically procedures. And we have a high level of certainty that they can predict things very well. For us, we can basically guarantee that if there is a flood coming through the rivers, that will be a threat for our infrastructure and our inhabitants, that we will know it, depending on the river, between 6 or 8 days in advance. On the sea level, we basically can say it the seaside 2-3 days in advance. And with storms, it is a little bit more tricky to give more days of preparation, but at least 24 hours would be a safe goal. So we actually have this window where we can operate in as emergency services to actually act on these warnings, early warnings, which is very luxurious. So we do prepare a lot. But this preparation of all these different authorities comes at a cost. We have a lot of different plans, protocols from European to national to sub-regional to regional to municipality level, which is also a challenge for people who actually have to execute or act on these plans. So as you do, you start making tools. So you make satellite imaging. We have that on European level. We have very accurate weather impact predictions and very advanced data processing. So we can actually predict on a very small scale of water level what will happen the next coming of days. And we actually make these accessible within the whole hierarchy of the government. So we have very intricate weathercasting models that we can access. This is a prediction in which you can get exact models as well from the organization that creates this, that is historically extremely accurate, which is nice. So then we can make our own maps with them, and we can overlay these things over economical and civil areas to assess risk, because risk is as much as a chance times the impact that the potential flood will have. And we can see all our sensors on these maps. And then we basically, for every 50 by 50 meters of the Netherlands, we have assessed the potential damage and the potential cost of life that it can do if it floods, which is very nice. But then you have the reality side of it, because you can have this whole theoretical system where everything is, well, basically documented in detail, but then you have the people who actually have to act on it. Today, I won't go into depth about how our crisis structure is managed and what people have what types of roles in those systems, but I will talk a little bit about the demand they have. Because if there's a certain threat, people basically want to know exactly from all these different plans and all these different systems, what's going on in one specific location, or what's the most likely thing that will occur in specific locations. They want to know real time what's happening there, exactly how many people are there, how many cars are registered in this area, what are the road conditions like at that time of the day, what will the weather be like, everything that can impact basically the actions they will have to take if something goes bad, or if the chance is very high and, for example, as an area has to be evacuated. And they want all these protocols to come together. You do not want in a couple of days in advance to be reading through hundreds and maybe thousands of pages of protocols and processes. And basically you want to include the entire whole society in this plan. You want to we use these plans and protocols to plan our road network, how we design our houses, where we place new buildings. But when you have to put it all together in a moment of crisis, it's extremely complex and difficult. And that's why we are at this moment most vulnerable. So the demand is basically to put everything in one interface. And this is the project we have taken on, which is a very nice project to do and very complex, because we have more than, at this point, 56 stakeholders, and they represent a host of other organizations. So I was thinking about myself in this, basically I am responsible, I have one part of responsibility in this emergency preparedness chain, and also in the crisis response. I was thinking about myself, how do I make this easy for the Netherlands as a whole? So I started analyzing all these different crisis plans. I talked with a lot of these very specialist people who are extremely knowledgeable about very small details in this chain. And then you come to the conclusion that everybody has different political backgrounds, and bureaucratical landscapes differ a lot between regions and municipalities especially. So you have to find some common ground with all these people. And if you keep it abstract, you can go in circles for as long as you live before you actually have one integral product, which is basically the demands of the organization that has to respond to these threats. So we kind of decided to just start making examples, invite all these people to our table, and Maya and Jeroen were there last time we did this, and we basically start saying, like, how can we create something that we're all happy with within these parameters. And currently we're developing this dashboard, and I will show you a couple of slides from the first drafts that we have. And I'm sorry, it is in Dutch. I could not translate this last moment, but basically what we have here on the top left side, you can select different areas in the Netherlands. So we have quite a lot of areas, but they are protected by dikes, completely engulfed by dikes. So basically, if there's a breach of a dike or a flood coming into these, we call them dike circles, I would say. It's mainly isolated for the biggest part. So that is very practical for us, of course, to act on, because then you can select these zones and you can coordinate all your response on the zone and all your data as well. So basically all the plans that we analyzed, they had 8 processes in them, and we put them here in big boxes. If you select one of these areas, the program will tune into this zone and take all the actual data from out the zone. Because we know exactly how many inhabitants there are. We know exactly what kind of critical objects are. And you have to think like infrastructure. You have to think about hospital care houses, people who are not able to evacuate themselves, for example. You have to think about mobile infrastructure, telephone, internet, those kind of things. And we basically can assess that very accurately on this scale. And then what everybody needs is a timeline. So basically you can enter here the moment when you expect the most risk, and then the program will put you back in time and say, all right, if you are here compared to the moment that risk is the highest, you should be taking these actions. And it is not like telling the people exactly what to do, because you need these local specialists and emergency responders to make the detailed plans, but it assists them by combining all protocols and all available data in a kind of easy format. So for example, if you want to evacuate the zone, this will tell you exactly how many inhabitants there are, and then it will project how many people actually can evacuate themselves. We take this formula by the people who live there, the amounts of cars registered to each household, and then we can make sort of a prediction. And it also tells you about this many people will probably do not listen if you tell them to evacuate, because by Dutch law you cannot force somebody to evacuate their house. If they want, they can just stay there. There's some people really don't like the government, for example, and they say, well, I decided for myself, I'm not leaving my house. Well, that's their right. But it also tells us how many people we actually have to accommodate if they leave this area. It also tells you about current road situation, how busy it is on the roads, and what the capacity of the roads there are, and so how long it will take to get all these people out of there. Then we have all these processes. We call them basically, we list them as economical process, a societal process, transport, logistics, and it takes the zone that you selected and it picks out all the processes that are there, who is mainly responsible for them, and how much time these responsible organizations need to basically safely shut them down, these processes. Then it adds this together, and you can tell now if this area has to be evacuated, it takes at least 64 hours for all the industries and all the different companies there to safely shut down. And this is very nice to have if you are preparing for a potential emergency. Then I'll show one more example. So this is one of the dashboards that come up if you're actually past the zone of a dike breach, and you need to know how you can rescue people. So we have this organization, it's called, I don't know how you translate it in English, but Rescue Fleet, basically. They're specialized in rescue in flooded areas or water in general. And they have these preset places where they can actually launch their boats in flooded areas. And then we can calculate how many people are in what kind of distance from these locations, how many available rescue crafts do we have, and then we can make a prediction how long it will take to get these people into safety. And the nice thing is, we as Safety Region, we organize this, but we're not owner of all these data and processes. The only thing we do is basically offer the specialist a place to put everything together, so we can have a very nice general image of what everybody's doing, what the options are, and what the processes are. And that is, for short, what I wanted to show you, because I think it's very nice if we can go into conversation. I'm very curious what you think of this system. Maybe you have some input or some questions. I'll stop the presentation so I can actually see you guys. There we go.
Thank you, Koen. That was very succinct. I think, yeah, leaving more room for discussion, definitely a good idea. So, yeah, I would open up the floor for any questions. So please raise your hand if you have any, and we can see if we can have an interesting conversation. I see Jeroen. Please go ahead.
I'm in a room with Spiros, so
maybe I can the camera. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, thanks, Koen, for your interesting presentation. Actually, it's Jeroen, but we are 3 people in the room, so we are one. Very interesting presentation. I have a lot of questions, so maybe that should be more like a discussion than just asking you one of the questions. Very interesting about your service. I'm triggered because it's a big decision to say to someone, to say to 100,000 people, we need to evacuate them. Maybe the first question is how many times, or can you give us an example in the past that this mechanism has been activated and how it went?
Yes, so the last time we actually had to do this was in 1995, and it was actually in the area that I'm responsible for as well. Back then I wasn't, I think I was in high school maybe? No, not even. No, but yeah, we had to evacuate this area that I selected as well. And in the end, the dike did have a breach, but the impact was not as big as predicted. But it was good that we evacuated people. Back then, it went quite well, but on the organization and the coordination level, it was very difficult, and especially on the political level, because in the end, our politicians, our chosen politicians, they are responsible for giving the go. And we saw basically everybody went slowly and put their stuff into safety, so got their animals out of there as well. But after that, it was a lot of fighting about who was responsible, the economic cost of it, and the crisis control at that time was not really having the feeling that they were in charge. Basically, they did not have the information centralized to make these informed decisions. So it was basically kind of a panicky decisions, and everybody got lost in all these protocols because they were reading who is responsible, what is the law. Oh, maybe it's they were not that prepared. Basically, the infrastructure was very good, but it failed that day, and well, we learned from that. And now we have these opportunities with the coming of the digital age, where you can cluster all this information and make it accessible to also our politicians.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, maybe follow-up question, and I would let someone else, because I'm thinking exactly all the things that you said. What is the cost? If the event actually happened, versus who takes the responsibility. Are there some lessons that you learned, for example, either in communicating with people or any lessons that you could mention to us? What worked, what didn't work, what we should not do, what we should do?
Yes, the success of the time was that at one point, at least the politician made clear, and everybody copied this same message. We cannot guarantee your safety. We advise you to go out, but it was too late. It was quite late, so people had to rush, which put a huge pressure on the road network, which frustrates a lot of people. If you want to get out, you get in a traffic jam, that's for sure. But you start getting nervous because when you're in your car, you're most vulnerable. Also, the politicians felt kind of no support because after that there was all these kind of how do you call it, rechtszaken, these
lawsuits.
Lawsuits, thank you. Were all these kind of lawsuits, and the government, the national government, in the end was blaming the mayor of taking this decision. Well, it was not that bad, and that was of course very bad because it scares a lot of politicians as well to make this choice. So there was a lot of action taken of that, and now we have different laws that actually, if something is declared a disaster or an emergency, the national government will take the purse and pay for it. And we have better mechanisms right now in place to guarantee this. So that gives a little bit more confidence to the person who actually has to make the call. Also, this information, we practice a lot more now. So basically for these scenarios that almost never happen but have huge impact if they do, it's very important to practice. So within the safety region, we have about 14 municipalities. In the end, the mayor of the area is in charge of saying of giving the evacuation notice, and we practice with them almost 3 times a year in different scenarios. We do tabletops. We tell them exactly what they can expect of the emergency services and where they are vulnerable by law and where they actually have to make the decision themselves. So basically, this open communication is the lesson we learned. We need to be very transparent about what we can do, what kind of security we can give, and what we cannot give. But this is always tricky, because if you tell a mayor, well, if this worst case scenario happens, it's all on you, and that's basically true, because he has to decide. There's nobody else who can do it. It is too big for the safety region themselves, because the economical and the lives at stake is too big. So we have a democratic elected leader has to make this decision, and it's extremely vulnerable. So we basically give them all the information, we give an advice, and that's it. But at least they know. And as soon as a mayor changes, the first week they are in office, we pay them a visit. We tell them about the risk we have. We tell them what he can expect of us. And of course, we answer all the questions and we practice. So that's the lessons we really learned from that one incident that in 1995.
Thank you. Thanks.
In the absence of other hands up, I have one question for the meantime. I was thinking maybe you could talk a bit about the different entities that are involved in disaster response in the Netherlands, because that's maybe a bit foreign for non-Dutch attendees, from the police to the fire brigade. And also, how does this dashboard, once it is established, how does it help these different organizations to be able to know what they do? Like, will it be customized for the police versus the water board? Will it contribute to a clearer mechanism of which party does what at what point?
Yeah, that's a very good question. What parties are involved? That's a big one to answer. Basically, if we talk about the parties who actually have to respond, the organization who actually have to respond, then we have, here we go, crisis communications, we have crisis management, information management, the fire brigade, the ambulance services, the National Health Organization, I guess, which I work for as well, military, police, and then we have something that is called, bevolkingszorg, which is basically the municipality who take care of their civilians. They are in charge of, if they have to evacuate, for example, making areas available, providing food, water, and basic life needs. And then you, of course, have, we call it the functional chain, who also responds, because we, as emergency services, we are not going to fix the breach in the dike itself. So you have the people who are responsible of these the dikes or the water defenses, and the monitoring of the river levels, and they also have crisis control teams who will start acting as well, because of course the source has to be dealt with, which is very tricky. So we put people of our organization in their crisis organization, and they put people of their crisis organization in ours. And so we kind of share this one image. The problem is it all goes by this one central system, which you can basically put one little map digitally and then text about decisions that are made and information. So instead of basically focusing on what does the police need, or what does the fire brigade need, or the military need, or whatever organization, we said we'll do it differently. We would just focus on the effects in one area that are the same for everybody, and then we'll overlay all the processes of these partners, of these organizations, over this image. And that way everybody can see who is doing what at what time. And what are we talking about? Are we talking about 3,000 people or 300,000 people that have to be evacuated? So I think that's the big shift, because right now everybody has their own systems and they're very, very specialistic, but you get a lot gets lost in translation. And this basically puts the effect first and then the organization second. I hope that makes sense.
Can I ask a follow-up question if nobody else is
Of course.
in the queue? So what is known from organizational sciences, for example, the work of Jeroen Wolbers about the trading zone, is that it's not easy, as you mentioned, for different branches of security safety organizations to unambiguously communicate what's going on. What is a big event for a fire brigade might be a small event for the police, or the other way around. And the police might want to cordon off an area in case there's a like say a pyromaniac on the loose. While the fire brigade might want to open all the roads and so that the optimum number of people can evacuate. How is this going in your region? Do you test these things? Because you haven't had a major flood incident in 30 years, as you said, but of course there are smaller incidents, and maybe you do practices, exercises?
Yes. So basically the type of incident decides who is in charge. So if it's how do you call it, law and order incident, we will follow the police. They are in charge. If it has to do with public safety, so anything threatening the physical well-being of our inhabitants, we are in charge, and we coordinate about 6 different organizations. But there's one person at the head of the table who can make the calls, and we have this structure, this chain of command, which everybody is a part of, and depending on the situation, one party is actually in charge of the decisions, but also responsible for the consequences of these decisions.
And do they get the same dashboards to make those decisions from, despite them being in different organizations and maybe using different info systems?
Yep. So the thing is, we have this national crisis management system that all these partners are basically a part of. And this dashboard can be embedded with one press of the mouse in this system, so everybody can see the same thing. And that way it's distributed from the ministries to the municipalities and everything in between instantly. Yeah.
Thank you.
I see a hand from Madhurima.
Hi, Koen. Thanks for that presentation. This is absolutely new field for me, but I sort of feel like I've understood some of the things. My question would be, you briefly mentioned that there are some people who have less trust in the government and are not willing to move. Could you throw some light as to how do you know who these people are, some kind of demographic, some kind of region, if you have a sense of why that is and how to tackle with that?
Yeah, so basically we are not allowed to profile our individual inhabitants, which I think has its benefits, and if you talk about safety, its downsides. Basically, we take surveys from the how do you call this organization? Planbureau, Nederlandse Leefomgeving. Anyway, there's this organization that surveys attitudes within our society, and based off that, we make a rough estimate of about how many people will actually comply with government and how many people will not. But it's a rough guess, and we don't exactly know where these people are. So we just basically divide it. We say, oh, in this area, the percentage of people probably won't listen, and we overestimate it to be safe, because everybody who stays at their place has to be rescued at some point if there is a flood. And of course, we still will try to do that, even if people don't listen. But we have to take this in account with our follow-up. So, yeah. I hope that's an answer to your question. Good.
Rhoda? You're muted. Oh,
yes. Thank you for the presentation. It was quite nice. So I have a question about the people, really, because you said most people are aware, but their perception of risk is quite low. Are you guys doing anything about that to increase their risk perception?
Yeah, in my opinion, not enough. But it's starting to come, and people do feel more threatened nowadays because of global political tensions, but the constant news of climate change and disasters. So actually, coming weeks, the national government is mailing out every household a little booklet, and they will start a big campaign. And this is quite a big deal for the Dutch government, because basically people here, they don't really appreciate being told what to do. It's kind of social, well, they're anti-authority, basically, always have been. People can make up their own minds, so to say. And this feeling is very strong. But everybody knows people in 1953, we had this huge flood incidents with thousands of people were killed. And since then, there's this huge national awareness. So we are fighting against the water. This is a general perception. We're not working with the water. This is what we kind of try to go to. But still, everybody has this, oh, we have to fight against this water. But everybody basically thinks, oh, I'm safe. For example, I live in an area next to a dike. And if my dike fails, I have about 5 minutes until the water is 6 meters high. So I'm quite chanceless, basically, if the thing goes down. But still, my insurance is not bothered for the house. It thinks, no problem, we have very good dikes. So why should I be worried as a civilian, right? So this is contracting. But now we have this new take, because everybody says, well, we just keep improving these dikes, and you see these water authority boards every time working on them, and they are magnificent. That's true. But what if one guy with a bomb comes around, right? Then we're quite vulnerable. And this narrative, you have to be careful to your population not to induce unnecessary amounts of fear. But you do kind of want them to be prepared and think about, what will I do if the government tells me within 3 days there will be a flood in your area? Do people have enough rations at home? Because our whole society is very spoiled, I would say. We have this just-in-time delivery of everything. People are not used to having a bag of rice at their home, because why would they? The supermarket is open all the time, and you can even get it delivered at your door any time of the day. It's kind of ridiculous how lazy people become. That's my opinion, of course. But yeah, it's a challenge. So more and more there are campaigns are starting about that the government cannot fix all the problems any longer. We are getting more vulnerable, and if your flood happens, you won't have electricity. That means you won't be able to pump gas in your car. It means you won't have food within 2 days, because our logistic chain is not based on big supplies somewhere. It's all just in time delivery. So actually people are quite vulnerable, and I don't think they're aware. But we have a huge uptime in our society. Our electricity availability is 99.9, and then 6 nines behind the dot reliable. The average household has less than 27 minutes a year of no power. And when they do, the first thing they do is not make sure they have enough water in their home or anything. Now they start to look up, how can I file a complaint? That's a typical Dutch response to when something bad happens. So yeah, we have a big mission there, and that's also why I'm very excited to work with Wageningen University, because they have this on their mind. And for the Dutch government, it's just waking up since a couple of years, like, oh wait, maybe we should do a little bit more about the risk perception of our inhabitants. But it's difficult.
I love how this is becoming like almost more social sciencey. This, yeah, very interesting. I saw Sandra have a hand up. I don't know if that.
Yes, thank you. Maybe just a very quick question right now. I have a lot of experience. I am from Ecuador, but also as a researcher associate with the International Pacific Center for Disaster Risk Reduction, the university that I have been working with. And we are working exactly more or less in the same direction that you are presenting now. And with my experience also in DRR, in Ecuador and in the region, I know that it's very difficult to implement the response, especially with authorities that are involved in the decision. Actually, I have just a question right now. We can just talk a little later about the experience. But to minimize this responsibility at the moment of the crisis or the disasters, we worked for so many years to pass a law. So I don't know if the Netherlands has been this kind of legal framework that allows a special structure to be responsible, not just at the moment of the decisions with crisis happens, but also later on to help the response and to the business as usual to come back, especially to the most affected groups that they have been impacted by these problems. Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you basically say you're working on different laws to make the decision making easier. Is that a good summary? And then specifically protect certain vulnerable groups.
No, we have just one law.
Just one.
What's the problem? Because I heard that you have there are many municipalities, of course, many gementes, and all of them they have your own planning and implementation. So they overlap at the moment that different sectors or different organizations as policies, police or fire brigades have to respond to who? What is the voice? Who is the authority that is in charge and now the protocol and everything? So for the quickly response, especially to the society, they are in crisis, they have to have a special structure. We already have it. We don't need to expect that the mayor, because our experience is that the mayor is the first one that is running home to protect their family. So on that, to minimize that, and this is very human behavior, we have a special legal structure, but it was not enough. So nowadays we have a law that it means that is administrating, controlling all these kind of special structure that it happens as a response of a disaster.
Oh, thank you. I understand completely now. We have this to a certain level as well. So basically we, as a safety region, have mandate over 14 municipalities. But there is a big but. We have 5 levels of escalation, basically. The second level of escalation, that's where we, until the second, so from first and second level, we have a central person here that is not a mayor, basically, who can take decisions in the name of the mayor. But if there is a big disaster, and then we basically go to escalation level 3, 4, or 5, it has to be this political democratic elected leader, which is a big vulnerability, as you point out, which I agree. Right now they are working, but this is very difficult also because of this perceived authority of the government. We are working to make one central decision maker that can overrule or basically just take this responsibility from the mayors. But we have a very old and different and a multitude of laws that makes it very complex to do. But I would agree that would be a very, very nice step for us as well to have, because they're always, they're not especially trained. Their main focus is not crisis management. They just tasked with making hard decisions in that case, which is suboptimal. So I'm very curious to the technical side of your law as well, because it might be very interesting for us.
Anamika?
Hi, thank you so much for this very interesting presentation. And as Piros also mentioned, this is very, very useful for us as in our project too. We are trying to come up with something of a similar nature. I just want to ask you one very, very quick question, and is that what do you think is the key element in an early warning system which can actually enhance people's trust on that system? I mean, is it accuracy that is all that matters, or is it also the way it is communicated or who is communicated? Did you come across any of these interesting cases which we can also keep in our mind when we are developing these dashboards?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And it's hard for me to point out the most important aspect of it. But to get an understanding, you have to go, I think it's useful to get into basically the seat of the person who has to act on it. And basically we found out that if we go in the seat of the person who has to decide to basically evacuate or not, because that's the biggest decision you can make in advance, they need a certain level of certainty and a certain way of communicating the things we don't know. So communication is key and accuracy is key. And you cannot be 100% accurate in advance with an early warning system. There's always an uncertainty somewhere in your models. So you have to take your time to explain this and to say, look, this is the odds we are looking at. It can go this way. The chance of that is that much and that much. Can go this way, and then just put the impact right next to it. If you don't make this decision and it does happen, and we estimate it's a 82% chance, that's quite high. This area of flood, there are that many schools, there are that many infrastructural hubs, there are that many inhabitants, and we will not have time to evacuate them. Or if you choose to do it and it was not necessary, then the economical damage would be this. And you have to present this as clear as possible, I think, and be very honest about what you know and don't know. Because in the end, they have to make the decision, and it's always hard with emergency or predictive models, because you can never be 100% sure. You have to be very transparent about it. So I think that's the most important. And then they just want to reduce their uncertainty. That's the only thing a decision maker wants. They want to basically delete the whole factor of uncertainty. And that's what safety organizations are basically about, trying to reduce the uncertainty for everybody. But that's, I hope that is an answer for your question. It's a hard one.
Yes. Yeah, it is definitely very challenging, but yeah, definitely. I got your point. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I see Manish's hand is up.
Hi, Koen. Thanks for the presentation. Actually, I want to ask which model is running behind this dashboard for this flood predictions, and what is the dissemination mode of the warnings? Like, is it through messages or is it through the mode of dissemination?
So the models about our prediction models, I cannot start to list because there are a multitude, and we actually don't execute these models. So these are the central organizations. What we do in the dashboard, we combine all these images together from the authorities that actually make them. And so we are quite light on the side of data science. We just overlap and integrate all these things at my level of government, because water threats and flood threats is one of our things we have to prepare for. We have in total, I think, 29 risks of which we have to manage. And water is one of them, and one of our biggest priorities. Yeah, so for sources about which exact models, I can give you a couple of websites, basically, for the Dutch government instances. I think you can actually access them in English as well, and they tell you what models they use and how they run them. And then you have to look at the weather forecasting agency KNMI.nl, Rijkswaterstaat.nl. Now Maya knows all these organizations, I think. But at their websites, you can actually find out what technical models they use. And then for the part of the communication, how we actually give a heads up. Well, we have a very redundant system. First, we use the telephone networks. So every person involved has a special phone, which is secured basically, and can run on any available network. Then we also have these pagers, which are nice and old school and robust and reliable. And if there is an heads up, the safety hub, which I'm the coordinator of, will press these messages out into the world. For our civilians to reach them, we have also a broad range of tools to actually contact them. So pass your mobile network and your internet network. We also, as last resort, can go with cars with loudspeakers on them through the neighborhoods as well to give these messages. We have a sort of alarm system, which is still intact from basically was made in the Cold War as a nuclear warning. But we use them if and basically if it goes off, and we test them every Monday, first Monday of the month. People are called to go inside and tune into their radio emergency broadcasting frequency. So we have radio, we have telephone, we have pagers, internet, and then as last resort we have cars that will go to designated neighborhoods and start making a lot of noise, basically.
Okay, thanks, Koen, for answering my question.
I had a few questions myself. I try to keep them simple. One of my questions is, I mean, I'm not an expert in data, but I was just wondering about, as you said, you compile different sources of data and modeling into this dashboard. And my assumption is, well, yeah, I would imagine that there's an assumption that the Netherlands, it's this highly bureaucratic country. As you said in the beginning, there's all these mechanisms that make us the country with some of the most accurate forecasting models in the world. But were there challenges in obtaining access to certain models or data in compiling this dashboard that perhaps you didn't expect? That is one question. And another question is, because obviously for our project, LODESTAR project, we've been looking into the existing early warning systems in the Netherlands, specifically for inhabitants. So you have the KNMI, have their new app now, an early warning center, you have NL Alert, etc. And we've already kind of engaged with some inconsistencies and problems in these warning systems, for instance, that people get different NL alerts because they are in like a border region or something. So my second question is there a link between your dashboard and the decision making that goes on in terms of sending out early warnings to citizens? Is there a way that the dashboard can have a function in making these early warnings more efficient or targeted or streamlined, essentially?
Yeah, so that's that last question first. We hope so. Right now, like you mentioned, the NL alerts, that can be different messages depending on which telephone tower you're closest to, which is very frustrating if you're well in the same household and get different messages, of course. But yes, the goal is to basically generate one image for everything, every organization who has to do with the flood protection and risk mitigation for that. So we hope that in the future, if this is fully operational, the system, people actually have exactly the same, how do you call it? Prognosis of the problem, and the communication messages will be shared there as well. And right now we do share these communication messages already with everybody in the Dutch government, but sometimes people act very fast and different organizations start sending rapid fire of messages, which is well, not good. But this dashboard won't really act on the responsibility of the organizations to start communicating, but it will provide one central information point on which to base this message of communication. Your first question, I forgot.
About challenges you faced in obtaining data or models or something.
Yes, that's one of the biggest challenges because everybody has to protect the data. Some data is very sensitive, so you cannot share them. For example, the exact location of certain infrastructure has to be secret because it's a national security risk. And actually, we did one time. We had a very complete image of all our gas hubs, and when we published that just to certain cleared, screened people, the Dutch intelligence services came knocking on the door and confiscated all our models and all our data, and they said state secret, goodbye. So that was difficult. So our trick now is to basically start there. So we went to the intelligence services and the military intelligence services, and we said, hey, we have this common goal. How can it be acceptable for you guys that we actually use the data we have in the Netherlands and we can actually share them between the screened partners? Which is always a struggle, I can tell you. And people are always scared to share the data. So you really have to get over there with a cup of coffee, show your face, and not just ask them, I want your data, because it is important, but give them context. Basically, it's social work. You have to become a trustworthy entity, because they have a lot of people to supply to, which is can be difficult for them. Yeah.
Any other questions? Annemieke, I see you unmuting yourself, or?
Yeah, just one small thing I want to know. When we talk to people here, for them, it is not just enough to let them know that it's going to rain or it's going to be flooded or whatever is the alarm. They want information beyond that, like how long, which road I should take. So, so for them, basically what they're telling us here is that, okay, we are aware that it's going to get flooded, but what the most important thing for us to know is how long are we going to get stuck? So do you also come across such queries in your work?
At this point, we do make a prognosis for that. And we say at least a certain amount of hours. And we do tell people get the message in their zone exactly what roads to take. And for the people who cannot transport themselves or have social background, we have this plan. We have a lot of public buses, which we can put at certain locations. And these locations are preset in villages, in towns and cities, to the exact point on the road where they will stop and they will collect people. So people can organize themselves to go to these locations, and then get themselves out. But it is difficult, because sometimes the worst thing you can do is tell people, especially in the public, something in a short and comprehensible way. And they take it for granted, but things can also change. So if you make a promise, your trust is gone. And this is always the fine balance. So you have to be as transparent as possible, but these are not crisis managers. These are not emergency responders. These are people who never encountered this in their life, and they certainly get told to leave their house. Of course, they want to know how long will I stay away. But if you stay, if a complete flood comes in, basically the house is gone. That's basically, in a lot of situations, that will be it. So it can take years. But if you tell them in advance, hey, you lose all your house, they will stay way longer, because they try to save their stuff, and they go up to their attic to take their pictures from the family pictures, and that's exactly what you don't want. So it's very difficult. So if you have very good suggestions of this protocol, I'm all ears. But right now we just say, hey, there's a big risk of flooding. You're in danger. We assess you have this many hours to evacuate. You can go by these roads or go to these bus stations, and you will be collected. After that time, those 48 hours, we advise you to seek shelter, because if you evacuate after that time, you'll be in even more risk than staying at home. That's basically what we will tell. We don't tell them how long it will probably take, because we don't know.
I'm afraid I have to cut this short, because the LODESTAR people have to go in an internal meeting in 1 minute. So thanks everyone for all the amazing questions. And I hope, Koen, that the discussion was somehow maybe provoking new ideas, or yeah, certainly giving some reflections on your ongoing work. And as Annemieke also said, this dashboard, I've told you multiple times that it aligns so much with what we're trying to achieve. So thank you so much for being here today, and for sharing all the knowledge. Yeah. Oh, David, you wanna? Oh, that was an accent, I think. Yeah, and thanks everyone for attending as well. As I said, we will have hopefully more of these events in the future, and our LODESTAR website will be up hopefully in the next few weeks, so that it will be easier to follow with our progress. So for now, I will say goodbye, and thanks everyone, and especially for Koen for this first webinar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.